Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I work night shifts at a local warehouse, which means I sleep most of the day and do my errands in the evening when everyone else is heading home. It's actually perfect for me because I hate crowds, and my dog feels the same way. That's how I ended up being a regular at the dollar store down the street. They're open late, the staff is friendly, and nobody minds that I bring my dog with me. My dog is a black pointer mix I rescued 3 years ago. She's sweet but not the brightest bulb in the box. She loves car rides but gets anxious once we actually start driving. She enjoys coming into stores with me, but she's incredibly shy around strangers. She never had any formal training, but she's well behaved when we're shopping. The only issues are that she pulls on her leash sometimes and doesn't get along with other dogs, so I always use a harness and avoid pet stores. Everyone at the dollar store knows her. She's as much a regular as I am. She has this funny habit of picking out cheap squeaky toys that she destroys within hours of getting home. The cashier I always see, who I call Nancy, keeps dog treats behind her register just for my dog. Other customers always stop to pet her and give her attention, which she loves despite being shy at first. On this evening I was doing my usual browsing. I can spend forever in that place looking at random stuff I don't need. I was debating between two different scented candles when I realized I really needed to use the restroom. I'd had way too much coffee before leaving the house. Here's the thing about my dog. She's terrified of public restrooms, the sound of toilets flushing. I couldn't leave my shopping cart unattended, and I wasn't about to drag it into the bathroom with me. So I walked up to Nancy at the register and asked if she could keep an eye on my dog for a minute while I used the restroom. I explained that my dog hates the sound of flushing toilets. Nancy smiled warmly and told me to take my time. I handed her the leash and hurried to the back of the store. The whole trip took maybe 3 minutes, but when I came back I could hear raised voices near the register. When I got closer I saw Nancy looking flustered and upset, and some guy I'd never seen before standing there yelling at her. The guy was shouting at Nancy, calling her an old hag and demanding that he wanted the dog. Nancy looked confused and told him that my dog wasn't for sale and didn't belong to the store. I walked up just when this guy pulled out his wallet and waved 2 crumpled dollar bills around. He thrust the money toward me and said he would buy the dog from me. I immediately grabbed my dog's leash from Nancy's hand and told him I wasn't selling my dog. I said that even if I were selling her, it wouldn't be for $2. The guy actually rolled his eyes at me like I was being unreasonable. He reminded me that we were in a dollar store and said $2 would cover tax. He insisted he wanted the dog because she would make a good hunting dog. My dog was pressed against my leg, clearly picking up on the tension. I told him no and explained that I didn't care what he thought. I said she was my dog, not for sale, and didn't belong to the dollar store. The guy then suggested I should just give her to him for free. He said I didn't need a service dog and told me to just look at myself. That's when my dog started trembling and trying to hide behind me. I needed to get her out of there, but I still had my shopping to finish, and I didn't want to leave her alone to make 2 trips to the car. I snapped at him that she wasn't a service dog, wasn't a hunting dog, and would never be his dog. I told him she was my dog and that he was scaring her. I demanded that he leave us alone, and that's when things got really scary. This guy actually grabbed my wrist and tried to yank the leash away from me. I had it looped around my wrist so he couldn't get it, but he was hurting me, trying to pull it off. I yelled at him to stop and leave me alone. The guy kept pulling and told me to give him the dog, calling me a little witch. He said I didn't need her and threatened to call the police and tell them I stole her. People around us started yelling, my dog was whimpering, and I was starting to cry because I get emotional when I'm really angry. I started hitting his hand with my free fist, trying to get him to let go. Then I saw him reach into his pocket and pull out a pocket knife. I screamed the word knife loud so everyone would know what was happening. 3 employees came running and grabbed this guy, pulling him away from me. But when they pulled him back, the knife cut through my dog's leash completely. The sudden force made me fall backward and land on the floor. My dog jumped into my lap, still shaking. The guy broke free for a second and lunged at my dog, grabbing her around the neck. She yelped and bit him hard on the hand. He actually hit her nose, so I smacked his hand away and held my dog tight while tears ran down my face. The employees were amazing. They used zip ties to hold this guy's hands behind his back and took his knife away. Someone called the police while Nancy helped me get behind the counter with my dog so we could calm down. Nancy asked if I was okay and if my dog was hurt. I told her I thought we were okay, just scared. I checked my dog over carefully. She seemed fine physically, just really shaken up. We sat there for about 10 minutes waiting for the police, with the employees keeping a close eye on this crazy guy. When the cops finally showed up, this guy had the nerve to lie to them. He told the officer that my dog had been waiting for him to finish shopping. He claimed that Nancy had told him he had to pay for the dog if he wanted her back, because she had decided to give the dog to her daughter instead. But the police talked to Nancy, the other employees, and several customers who saw everything. Plus, the store has security cameras. The officer told the guy that multiple witnesses and the security footage showed that he had grabbed my wrist, threatened me with a knife, cut my dog's leash, and hit my dog. The officer told him he was under arrest for assault and animal cruelty. The guy protested and said that wasn't what happened. He insisted that all these people were lying, but it was too late. They handcuffed him and put him in the police car. I had to give a statement and show them the red marks on my wrist where he grabbed me. The officer told me later that when they searched this guy, they found out he had warrants for theft and had been banned from 3 other stores in the area for similar behavior. This wasn't his first time trying to steal people's pets. Nancy gave my dog extra treats that night, and I bought a new leash to replace the one that got cut. The other customers in the store were incredibly supportive, and a few even offered to be witnesses if I needed them for court. The weirdest part was that this guy genuinely seemed to believe he was entitled to just take my dog because he decided he wanted her. Like the fact that she was obviously well cared for and belonged to someone didn't matter to him at all. He saw something he wanted and thought $2 meant he could have it. My dog was nervous about going back to the store for a few weeks, but eventually she got comfortable again. Nancy still keeps treats for her, and now the employees all know to keep an extra eye on us just in case. The guy ended up pleading guilty to avoid jail time, but he had to pay a fine and do community service. A few years ago, I was working as a wildlife photographer in Costa Rica. I was deep in the jungle, trying to get the perfect shot of a toucan, when I stepped on what I thought was solid ground. It turned out to be a camouflaged pit trap that some poachers had set up. I fell about 15 feet and landed badly on some sharp rocks. My left leg got completely mangled from the knee down, and by the time the rescue team found me 12 hours later, there was no saving it. The amputation was rough, but I adapted pretty quickly. Got fitted with this amazing bionic prosthetic that works better than I ever expected. My doctor was really thorough about explaining all the things I'd need to know about living with it. One thing he stressed was air travel. Apparently prosthetics can look suspicious on security scanners, so he gave me this little card that looks like a miniature X-ray showing my prosthetic. He told me to always tell airport security about it to avoid any complications. Last month, I was flying to Chicago for a photography exhibition, standing in the usual airport security line. You know how it is, everyone shuffling forward like zombies, taking off shoes and belts, emptying pockets into those gray plastic bins. The whole process is already stressful enough, without adding my situation to it. When I finally reached the table where you load your stuff into the bins, I remembered my doctor's advice. I approached the female agent behind the table and tried to be as polite as possible. I told her I had a prosthetic leg and held up the little X-ray card my doctor had given me, expecting maybe a simple acknowledgement or instructions on how to proceed. Instead, this woman barely looked at me and rolled her eyes. She told me to just put it in the bin and keep moving. Her tone was so dismissive and rude, like I was some kind of troublemaker trying to hold up the line. She didn't even look at the card my doctor had specifically given me for this situation. I could feel my face getting hot with anger, but I kept my cool. I tried explaining again that I had a prosthetic leg that I needed to tell her about before going through the scanner, but she just repeated that she'd heard me the first time and told me to put it in a bin if I needed to take it off. Otherwise, keep the line moving. She turned away from me and started stacking more bins for the next person, completely dismissing me. The people behind me were getting restless, and I could feel their stares. That's when I decided this woman needed to learn exactly what she was dealing with. Since she wanted me to put my prosthetic in a bin so badly, I figured I'd give her exactly what she asked for. I hopped up onto the middle table while she had her back turned, organizing bins. The people in line behind me started paying attention now, sensing something was about to happen. I began the process of removing my prosthetic leg, making it look way more complicated than it actually is. After 3 years of practice, I can get this thing off in about 10 seconds, but I decided to take my time. I made a big show of adjusting straps, checking connections, and carefully positioning myself on the table. The guy working the scanner on the other side was watching me with this huge grin spreading across his face. He clearly understood what was happening. Some people in line were starting to chuckle quietly, realizing what I was doing. Finally, I detached my prosthetic completely and held it up for everyone to see before dropping it into one of the gray bins with a loud thunk. The sound echoed through the security area and made several people jump. That's when the female agent finally turned around. Her eyes went wide and her mouth fell open when she saw me sitting on her table with one leg and my prosthetic sitting in the bin like she'd demanded. She stammered that she hadn't realized what I meant, but I calmly told her I was just following her instructions to put it in the bin. By now, a small crowd had gathered to watch. The scanner operator was trying not to laugh out loud, and I could hear people behind me making comments about how maybe she'd pay attention next time, and that she should listen when people try to tell her something important. I hopped down from the table and started making my way toward the scanner on one leg. The agent just stood there, completely speechless and probably mortified. The scanner operator was clearly enjoying the whole situation and told me to take my time, that there was no rush at all. I hopped through the scanner while everyone watched. When I came out the other side, the scanner operator was still grinning. He told me that was the most polite way he'd ever seen someone make a point and that she definitely learned something today. After I got my prosthetic back and reattached it, several people came up to me with supportive comments. One older man told me his son had lost his arm in military service and that he was proud to see me stand up for myself in such a creative way. The female agent avoided eye contact with me for the rest of the process, but I noticed her actually listening when the next person mentioned they had a medical device. Let me tell you about something that happened when I was 12 years old. We lived in a public housing apartment block, and like most kids our age, we spent every evening downstairs at the playground. My parents both worked late shifts, so our domestic helper would take my little brother and me down to play with the neighborhood kids around 6 in the evening. Our group was pretty tight. There were about 8 of us regulars, ranging from 9 to 14 years old. We'd been playing together for years, and we knew all the rules about being respectful to the residents. No playing after 9 at night, keep the volume reasonable, and clean up after ourselves. We weren't angels, but we tried to be considerate. The playground was our world. We had our soccer matches, hide-and-seek games, and lately, we'd gotten really into these foam dart blasters that one of the older kids had bought. They were so much fun and way quieter than our usual soccer games. We'd run around the open area near the playground, ducking behind benches and playground equipment, having mock battles with these toy guns. That evening started like any other. My helper brought my brother and me downstairs, and we met up with the usual crowd. We decided to skip soccer and go straight for the foam dart battle. Everyone was laughing and having a great time, the soft foam darts bouncing harmlessly off each other. We were being pretty quiet too, definitely quieter than our soccer games. Then she showed up. This woman came walking over from the direction of Block B, and she looked furious. She was probably in her 40s, dressed up like she was heading out for dinner, complete with heels and a fancy handbag. But the look on her face was pure rage. She started yelling at us about not having any respect for the neighbors. She complained that everyone wanted to sleep and that we were keeping her awake was all our noise. I looked at my watch and saw it was 6 in the evening. The sun was still up. This lady was clearly dressed to go out somewhere, not to sleep. A few of us exchanged looks and tried not to laugh. She got even angrier when she saw us trying not to laugh. She started shouting about how she was older than us and threatened to call the police to get us all arrested for making too much noise. That's when we really started laughing. Even my little brother knew that you couldn't get arrested for playing at 6 in the evening. The noise regulations didn't even kick in until 10 at night, and we were playing with foam toys, not setting off fireworks. My helper stepped forward with a couple of her friends who had come down with their kids too. She told the angry woman that we hadn't done anything wrong and mentioned that she had been recording us playing because she liked capturing kids having fun with their friends. She suggested that maybe the woman should relax a bit. The woman kept ranting about how disrespectful we were and how she was going to report us to the town council. One of my friends, probably the boldest kid in our group, had finally heard enough. He told her to just go away and leave us alone. The woman pointed her finger at all of us, made some threat about getting us banned from the playground, and then stormed off back toward her block. We went back to our game and forgot all about her. A few weeks passed, and we were back to our regular soccer matches. It was a Saturday afternoon, maybe around 4 o'clock, and we had a good game going. There were about 10 of us that day, split into 2 teams, and we were really into it. The cheers and shouts when someone scored were probably the loudest we'd been in months, but it was still afternoon and well within the acceptable hours. We were right in the middle of an intense moment when she appeared again. But this time, Karen wasn't just angry. She was furious, screaming at the top of her lungs when she charged toward us. She demanded that we give her the ball immediately, or we would all get hurt. We all froze. This wasn't just some cranky neighbor anymore. This woman looked like she wanted to actually hurt us. The friend who had the ball looked around frantically when Karen started running toward him. Without thinking, he took off running toward the ramp that led down to the lower level of our housing complex. It was faster than taking the stairs, and Karen was trying to cut him off by going down the regular staircase. The rest of us scattered in different directions. I decided to take the rocky path up the side of the staircase. There were these decorative rocks and plants along the slope, and I used them to climb up and get away from the main area. My little brother followed me, and we scrambled up when we could. We all ended up meeting at my apartment, which was in the closest block. Everyone was breathing hard and talking over each other, trying to figure out what had just happened. My friend, who had been running down the ramp, was the last to arrive, and he looked shaken. He told us that we needed to know what Karen had been carrying. He had seen her with a kitchen knife, and she had been trying to stab our soccer ball with it. My helper confirmed it. She had stayed behind to watch from a distance, and she saw Karen pull out this big kitchen knife. When she realized she couldn't catch any of us, Karen's plan was to puncture our soccer ball and probably threaten us with the knife if we didn't stop playing. We were all pretty freaked out. This wasn't just some entitled neighbor complaining about noise anymore. This was an adult woman chasing children with a weapon because she didn't like the sound of us playing soccer at 4 in the afternoon. My helper called her agency and reported the incident. They said they'd speak to the building management, but honestly, we never saw any official response. What we did notice was that Karen seemed to disappear from the area. Maybe someone spoke to her, or maybe she realized how crazy her behavior had been, but we didn't see her around the playground anymore. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.